Frankincense has long been recognized for its value, especially as an essential oil. Its powerful aroma is distinctly known and is prized for its many health benefits.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops of healing oil, one at a time. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miracles just keep happening. Bye-bye headaches, so long stress, medicine bottles, reject. Here we go. A little bit of lavender on my spine, a little bit of peppermint feels so fine, a little bit of frankincense clears my brain, a little deep blue and I feel no pain. Veggie cap, break open the veggie cap, now fill up the veggie cap, put on the hat, now throw it back. Everybody diffuse. Eric, it's your turn.
Away, girls.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops of healing oil, one at a time. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miracles just keep happening. Adios allergies, hello sleep. All my tummy troubles are obsolete.
Okay, girls. I think I'm getting the hang of this, but I'd love to hear it one more time.
Here we go. A little bit of lemon oil in my cup, a little slim and sassy, drink it up. A little wild orange and a smile a bunch, a little on guard, that's a lot of punch. Veggie caps, break open the veggie caps. Now fill up the veggie caps. Put on the hat, now throw it back.
Oh, I'm not feeling so good. Help me, girls.
Bye-bye headaches.
So long stress.
Karma's a bitch.
Queen of Karma.
Its powerful aroma is distinctly known and is prized for its many health benefits. Often referred to as the king of oil, it's highly revered for everything from digestion to beauty. It's truly one of nature's most valued gifts.
Hello, everyone, and happy MLM Monday, the day where you watch your favorite anti-MLM creators. And today we are going to be taking a look into the allegations against doTERRA via their supplier. We're going to be deep diving into every aspect of the case and all of the accusations. Do know that there's a trigger warning for sexual assault and for physical assault and abuse in the workplace. So just be wary for that. We are going to be talking about that today. It's pretty serious. So it does involve the supplier of the doTERRA frankincense oils. And most of you are familiar with doTERRA. doTERRA is a multi-level marketing company that began several years ago. Basically, the people in Young Living essential oils that run this doTERRA company worked their way up in Young Living and then went off and created their own essential oil company. I've done a deep dive on Young Living and doTERRA, so go and check those out. And there was even a whole thing with a trademark infringement lawsuit that Young Living lost, and also another lawsuit to do with theft of trade secrets. Because, like I said, it's like they stole from Young Living. And if you are unaware with who Gary Young is, the guy that created Young Living Essential Oils, he is probably one of the worst people in MLMs, in my opinion. Oftentimes, these essential oils are getting the companies in trouble for making illegal medical claims and the such. But today's is a little bit more serious. To start this off, I think we need to watch this video that they did 4 years ago It's by Emily Wright, who, according to them, as you can see, is the doTERRA founding executive. And it says frankincense essential oil, and this is doTERRA's Behind the Bottle, and it is their 10th episode. So I think it's a good place to start, because today we're talking about the supplier that was doing their frankincense. So you would think that, they would talk about it a little bit here in doTERRA Behind the Bottle.
Many people don't realize that frankincense was the first worldwide export, and it all began in Oman thousands of years ago. There is such a rich history. Boswellia sacra is the frankincense species that is sourced from Oman. Frankincense was more precious than gold, had a higher value than even gold. The frankincense trade route, it began there in Oman, went up through Yemen, and then up along the Arabian Peninsula, all the way up to Petra, where then there were ports that took it out to the rest of the world. I want to introduce you to Ashad. He's our frankincense partner from Oman. We've just come across a frankincense tree that has recently been scored.
If you look at the distance between the first season and the second, it's about 2.5 feet. This is the correct way of harvesting.
So you want about 2.5 feet.
That's right, yeah. Between each and
incision.
Yeah. It starts off like a milky liquid and then dries out into crystals, and then they drop. After about 2 weeks, it will be collected by the harvesters. After the second week, they'll come back again and make another incision in the same spot. And they make the first incision, you do not have a lot of resin which comes out. Second is
frankincense, the oil that was brought to Jesus Christ. Jen says the only essential oil mixture that actually did what it said on the bottle was an insect repellent. Very true. Who would have thought an MLM would have supply issues? I think supply issues are normal. These issues are a little bit more serious. Hello, Baron. Good to see you.
incision, it increases. Third, you get much more resin out. This was made last year and it is healing. Right. So they have not touched this area at all. Once once the season finishes, this particular area will be left to rest.
Because of our partnership with Ashad and Saeed, in 2020, we will propagate 20,000 new Boswellia sacra trees in Oman. There's already 500 in the ground. They're thriving. Many of them are several years old.
It's like a baby growing.
Yeah.
And this thing is going to be, this is going to grow into a big tree. That is going to support many different projects in the future. And this is the heritage. This is the heritage of a country, of Oman.
That's kind of cool. They make it sound so lovely and beautiful. Like they're giving back to the community by planting the trees and everything. So I think the best place to start in what's going on and what has been going on, I'm late to the party. But the reason why I'm late to the party is because I like to wait for things like this to play out. So this was an article that was published on January 7th of 2023. And as you can see, it's entitled, Somaliland's Frankincense Brings Gold to Companies. Its women pay the price. And this is kind of where our story begins. And it says here that it's co-published with The Guardian. This is the Fuller Project. Also, warning, it contains offensive language in paragraph 37. So just be prepared for that. So I'm not speaking metaphorically. A bottle of doTERRA essential oil can change the world, says David Sterling, a mild, clean-cut, middle-aged man. His largely female audience cheers and whistles, as if for a celebrity. Sterling, then CEO and co-founder of doTERRA, a Utah-based multi-level marketing company that sells essential oils, is making his opening remarks in September 2021 to the packed Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City. In a setting reminiscent of a mega church, Sterling's soft-spoken voice echoes. He reminds the audience that the world needs healers more than ever. And that's you, he says. And see, this is why I say, like, especially Young Living and doTERRA in terms of essential oil company, MLMs, they're always kind of making illegal medical claims, or they're like teetering on almost making them. Like it's very, very worrisome. Hello, Ken. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. And like even here, he's telling the audience, you're healers. Like, no, they're essential oil hunts. Like they're not healers. That's a bit much, you know? And everyone, of course, then just breaks out into applause because he can do no wrong. He quotes C.S. Lewis, speaks of miracles, and says he's seen people turn to doTERRA in their lowest moments. People cry. And yeah, they do. They take this very, very seriously. It's life-changing. Life-changing. I'm telling you, it. When you go to one of those conventions for an MLM, it's almost like going to a mega church. A lot of the same vibes with the way that the audience kind of reacts and stuff to what the speakers are saying. You have people crying, and it's almost like they're like praising the person on stage a lot of times. So I believe people were crying. doTERRA, which generates more than $2 billion in annual sales, promises its products are better than those of other companies, as they all do. This is often my point. Like, all of the MLMs say that they are the best one. Their products are the best. They have the best compensation plan. They're the most empowering for women, blah, 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 blah. All of them. The oils are purer. Like, I don't really know what that means, but okay. And more sustainably harvested. Workers are paid better wages. That's often one of the appeals that MLMs use. Like, they'll be like, oh, well, we source in places that don't make a lot of money, so we're like helping the community, and we pay the workers really well, better wages than they normally get, and yada, yada, yada. And oftentimes that's not true, right? And local communities are supported. Yeah, see, there it is. On its website, doTERRA highlights its frankincense supply chain as an example of how it creates more stable and reliable income, fairness, employment, and security for harvesters and sorters. Frankincense, distilled from the resin of Boswellia trees, found in the Horn of Africa, is one of the world's oldest traded commodities. Most recognized as one of the gifts brought to the newborn Jesus by the three wise men in the Bible. It's also one of the most highly marked up, which that's kind of interesting, just saying. A half-ounce bottle of doTERRA's frankincense oil retails for $100. doTERRA's website says it's revered for its ability to rejuvenate skin when applied topically and to promote cellular health and immunity when taken internally. Let's stop drinking the damn essential oils. Here's an example of the trees, and we watched the video. So the mostly female wellness advocates, the Huns, the distributors, right, who sell doTERRA's products often say its ethical approach is what attracted them. And that's what I mean. Like that will be why a lot of them go there. They think they're helping. People don't join MLMs all the time to make a lot of money. Oftentimes they join MLMs because they think that the MLMs are doing good work for people that other big corporations maybe aren't doing, right? And that they can have a small business with it. And it's like a win-win for everyone involved. That's kind of like what they always try to portray. And it's like, well, you'll find out. But a 2-year investigation has revealed a different reality in Somaliland, a self-declared republic north of Somalia and the source of a large portion of doTERRA's frankincense. More than a dozen women working for doTERRA's frankincense supplier, a Somaliland company called Asli Mady, have told the Fuller Project that the company routinely underpays its workers, requires them to work in harsh conditions that are linked to health problems, and is led by a politically powerful man who multiple women have accused of sexual harassment and assault. Which that should not be happening, you know? Presented with the Fuller Project's findings, doTERRA said it would temporarily suspend its operations in Somaliland and was working to engage a third-party team to help it investigate the matter. It said it was concerned by the allegations of poor work conditions, which were inconsistent with our current understanding of the operations, and found the allegations of sexual misconduct troubling. doTERRA prides itself on supporting and empowering women. Remember that part. And plans to investigate the allegations of misconduct once it can access the country safely, said the company in an emailed statement. Asli Mady's owner, and I think it's Barkhad Hassan, did not respond to specific questions about the claims of mistreatment and assault. But he denied all allegations against him and said he had done much to improve the industry. The next section is called Broken Promises. 13 frankincense sorters, female workers who divide frankincense resin by color, grade, and quality, spoke to the Fuller Project anonymously about working 9 to 12 hours a day, up to 6 days a week, in a warehouse for Asli Mady. Many say the company lured them with promises of a fair wage, food supplies, and money for their children's school fees. According to a supervisor in the Arigava warehouse and multiple other women, Asli Mady pledged to build housing near the sorters' warehouses and to provide transportation to and from work. But the offers never materialized. Another sorter says she walked 2 hours each way to the warehouse in Arigavo. So, Somaliland is very near to Somalia. Yeah. It's like in Somalia. Yeah. So that's where they were getting it from, I guess. So it sounds like these were the ones that were like producing it, packaging the frankincense, and then like sending it to the company. Like it sounds like they had quite a close connection, right? So I'm just saying. And it's not good. Not good. None of this is good. The women say they made 10,000 Somaliland shillings, or slightly over $1 a day, for sorting 6 pounds of resin. And so this is what I mean. They're like the sorters of it. So like they're packaging up the frankincense. And then I believe that their job would be to then send it to whoever takes the powder, because it's powder when they take it from the tree, right? They take the sap and they turn it into powder so that they can kind of like ship it. And then because they talk about later on how part of the harsh conditions was that it was dust. It's like powder. And so the workers were breathing in constant dust and stuff from it. So they're like packaging it and sending it to the people that then take it and then turn that into the essential oil, if that makes sense. That was kind of what their job was in this. And so that's what they made for sorting 6 pounds of resin. And it says, well, this pay rate is typical for sorters in the region. So that's what they would like normally make. But if you remember, they were promised more. And it says here a fair wage would be about $2.50 per pound, or about $15 a day, based on what these women would need to support their families. And that's from Amina Sulman, director of the charity Horn of Africa, which is advocating for Somaliland's harvesters and sorters. One of the 13 women says the warehouse had no toilets or running water. She says women developed kidney complications and urinary tract infections from being unable to go to the bathroom. The women also say they weren't given breaks and had to ask to use the restrooms in neighboring houses, which I'm sure they wouldn't have had to do had they had like proper toilets and running water, right? Another says she's barely able to walk because of back pain caused by carrying pounds of resin every day. She says she had to keep her job at Asli Mady because her husband died and she must provide for her 8 children. You can imagine life is very hard, she says. On its website, DoTerra's says it supports the community by paying Somaliland women to clean and sort the resins, all while ensuring fair labor conditions and promoting safe and healthy working environments, free from exploitive practices, harassment, and discrimination. But several of the women complain of back pain, as well as headaches and vision impairment that they say came from sitting on the floor, hunched over dusty, raw resin, and carrying heavy loads of sorted resin around the warehouse. There's the doTERRA oils. Excuse me. So obviously, doTERRA has a statement. It said, in its statement, doTERRA said its highest priority is the safety and proper treatment of each of our employees, adding, just as important is the safety and proper treatment of everyone in our global supplier network. All vendors are required to abide by our stringent code of conduct to ensure safe and healthy working conditions, fair and on-time payments, and respectful and ethical conduct. They at least should have some toilet facilities at the warehouse, right? I mean, that's like a bare minimum. Their highest priority is profit, pure and simple. Yeah, pure. I didn't tell anyone what happened. So this is when we're going to get into the allegations of sexual stuff. So if that is something that you're just not into today or it's triggering to you, then I would click off now. And then you can't watch the rest. Because, there's not going to be very much that doesn't talk about that. So on condition of being anonymous, 3 Somali women told the Fuller Project about their experiences with the owner of this warehouse place, Hassan, and his employees. One woman, age 22, says that when she went to Hassan's bungalow in Arigavo for a job interview last year, he asked to take photos of her in underwear. She says Hassan intimidated her by saying he already had a photo of her and could edit it to remove her clothes. She says her family is very poor and that she needed work, so she agreed. She says a white man who was with Hassan took photographs of her in the underwear but stopped when a woman arrived to clean the house. A woman who was asked not to be named for fear of retribution corroborated this account, telling the Fuller Project that when she went to clean Hassan's bungalow during the time in question, she saw a young woman being photographed in underwear. Now, I just want to remind you that when they talked about who this man is, they said that he's very powerful politically. And I don't really know how to say it, because right now, I think the USA just elected a rapist as their president. But in most places, the people in power are not supposed to be this corrupt. They're all corrupt, but not like this. And there's a lot of areas of the world that have very, very corrupt governments. So if he is politically connected, okay, where they live, that could mean a lot of really bad things for these women if they upset this dude. Okay, it's not just here. The imbalance of power isn't just like a workplace and employee, like boss employee imbalance of power. There's also, he has like political connections and is known to be very powerful politically in this area. So that kind of adds a whole new layer to it. You get what I'm saying? Hi, Nani. There's a whole layer with that just maybe you could try to understand why someone would not want to fight back against him in an area like that, where women also don't have as many rights as we're lucky to have here. So the fact that somebody else was like, I went to go clean his bungalow, and when I showed up, there was a woman there being photographed in her underwear. I doubt that these two women kind of got together and had a chat and they were like, let's make up this story, right? It's kind of telling when two people tell it from different views like that. Hello, rockin' hippie chick. Hi, Sam. You get what I'm saying? The young woman says she ran to the bathroom to change and asked Hassan to delete the photos. I never went back, she says. I feel shame that I did this and worry so much about the pictures. Another woman shared a similar experience of abuse. A third woman says that in the winter of 2016, when she was 16, she heard about a job opportunity with Asli Mady. She says 2 Asli Mady associates drove her from her home in Arigavo to what she was told was the work site in a neighboring town. In rural Somaliland, there's limited public transportation, and women often have no choice but to rely on strangers for rides. There's a lot of that. So again, there's not the same stranger danger there. When they arrived, and that's not because people aren't as dangerous. That's not what I'm saying. No. I'm saying, like, it's just people do it more there. It's often a thing that they'll like carpool almost, where it will be like several of them in one vehicle to travel because of the fact that you can't really get around easily, right? So, of course, women are also in positions where they have to do this. When they arrived, the site turned out to be a private house. That's bizarre. You're 16, you're going to a job interview, and then you're taken to a house. The scene of a party, now it's a party, hosted by Hassan and other Asli Mady employees. The woman says she accepted a non-alcoholic fruit drink called Rainy. Sorry, I don't know what this drink is. Thankfully. Sounds like it's something that nobody should be on. But it says after she drank it, she says she doesn't remember what happened. The next day, she woke up in another house and knew she'd been sexually assaulted. Over the next few days, she says she was held there and raped multiple times by 2 men. 5 other teenage girls, all of whom had been promised jobs, were also assaulted by 10 men, including Hassan, she says. When some of the men finally agreed to take the girls home, she says one man threatened them. He showed us his pistol and said, "If I hear anything, this will make holes in your head." She says that after the assaults, she considered unaliving. "I was so devastated that I didn't leave the house for a long time. I didn't tell anyone what happened to me." Hassan did not respond to specific claims, but called the allegations ridiculous and said in an email, "I'm not a rapist." "I have never been known to be violent to any female or to have sexually threatened or assaulted any woman in my life," he wrote. Hassan said that because resin export is one of the country's largest trades in Somaliland, there are powerful people who badly want to replace me as an exporter. They will stop at nothing to see me replaced, he wrote. Anjanette DiCarlo, a sustainability consultant who formerly worked as a contractor for DoTerra, corroborates part of the woman's account. She says she was in the town near Irigavo attending a focus group hosted by Asli Mady, and that evening she was urged to leave so the men could have a party. When she asked if she could join in, she says an employee told her, "No, you can't stay for this kind of party." The next day they smelled of alcohol, and she asked how the party was. She says one of the men laughed and said, "Girls." None of the 3 women say they reported the incidents to police or clan elders. They said they were too afraid of what Hassan and his men would do to them. Excuse me. So they go on to say that sexual violence is prohibited, which is good news. And that's under the Somaliland Penal Code. It also says, though, that rape is rarely reported. According to Erica Marsh, an independent researcher of humanitarian issues in Africa. Excuse me. Police presence is scarce in rural Somaliland. and clan elders usually handle cases of sexual violence, she says. Women are often ashamed to speak about sexual assaults, let alone report them. I feel like I got something caught in my throat. Sorry. So yeah, in that area, women don't often report it. Police are different. Police are different. Under Somali customary law, alleged rapists may be required to compensate the victim's family, often her male relatives, since traditional law treats women as legal minors. You know? On occasion, clan elders even order victims to marry the perpetrators. It's just a very different world to the one that we're used to. Somaliland recently came close to passing a bill criminalizing several forms of gender-based violence, including rape. But in 2020, Parliament introduced a regressive new bill that would penalize women for false reports of rape, punishable by up to 5 years in prison, and women who use witchcraft to obtain sex is punishable by death. Nafisa Yusuf, executive director of Nagad Network, a national community of women's advocates, says incidents of rape are on the rise. Next section is called An Employee's Allegation of Rape. Asley Mady has demonstrated a pattern of exploitation of women, says DiCarlo. A recent Vice documentary told DiCarlo's story and gave a platform to male doTERRA harvesters who say they were never paid in full or were paid in food. Since then, sources say little has changed on the ground. This is the documentary here, Vice's documentary. It's called Inside the Wellness Industry's Controversial Supply Chains. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put a link to it in the chat right now. And when I'm done my stream here, I'm going to add all these links to the description. But I highly recommend going and watching it. I can't play any of it here because they're hella big about copyright. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you. They're really big on copyright. So, like, I can't play any of it for you, but I highly recommend watching it. It sounds like there's very little justice there. There is. Like, it's not really a thing. Women don't have police that they can really just ring up and then be like, hey, a man raped me, and then have the police come and do a rape kit and a report. Like, here in Canada, we have that ability. In the USA, you can do that. At least so far you can. Maybe you won't be able to soon, but you still can as of right now. So it's like, it's a completely different thing. And you have to kind of take into consideration all of that when you're talking about a case like this, because oftentimes when there are allegations like this towards somebody, people go, well, why didn't she report it to the police? And it's like, I don't think that you understand like what that entails and what that means in some areas and how that can't even happen in some places. You have to think of all of that when you think about how somebody should have reported something. You know, it's like, do they even have the ability to? Because in this case, not really. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. I just don't know, like, I just don't know if DoTerra has done their due diligence to consider these things, and you'll find out more about that soon. But yeah, it's called Inside the Wellness Industries, Controversial Supply Chains, and it's a Vice News episode. It's like 43 minutes long, so go and check it out. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. Go and check it out, and then literally you'll get a better understanding of some of these things, hopefully. Highly recommend. It's a good one. So, yeah, do go check that out. DiCarlo describes her time working with Asli Mady as chaos. In November of 2018, on the last night of one of DiCarlo's trips to Somaliland, she says Hassan invited her to his home, where a group was gathered. Under the guise of showing her frankincense resin in another room, DiCarlo says Hassan locked the door, pushed her to the ground, and raped her. DiCarlo says she didn't report the assault to authorities because she was traumatized and was leaving the country the next morning. And she was probably like, I just want to go home. The U.S. doesn't recognize Somaliland, and its embassy in Somalia is more than 600 miles away. There's nowhere to report it that I know of, she says. DiCarlo told people close to her about the incident, one of whom corroborated her version of events. When I got home, I wasn't in good shape, she says. I wasn't really functional for a few months. In 2019, DiCarlo says she reported the assault to DoTerra. And I think one of the issues here is that it's very worrisome that she was working for DoTerra and she didn't think that she could go to them to tell them about this. Like, they should have a place that she can report it to. Why wasn't that able to happen until 2019? I feel like if there was a place to report things like that, that's an employee would feel comfortable reporting that to, then maybe they would have. I felt that they should know who they were dealing with, she says. I was like, if he could do that to me, imagine what he's doing to local girls. In its statement, DoTerra wrote, when we learned of the allegations, we encouraged DiCarlo to report the matter to law enforcement. As is company policy, we investigated the matter to the extent we could. However, we do not have the authority or investigative powers needed to fully investigate these allegations. We continue to encourage and support law enforcement's efforts to fully investigate the allegations as we would for any victim of alleged assault. More than a year after DiCarlo says she reported the alleged assault, she says Hassan sent her abusive text messages, screenshots of which she shared with the Fuller Project. In one, Hassan wrote, does that mean some fucking mad bitch should try to ruin my life after I've been nothing but good to her? Is that how you treat people? Wow. Talk about being ungrateful. DiCarlo says she tries to get him to admit to what he'd done by telling him he'd hurt her. He responded, I'm sorry, it was naughty. DiCarlo hasn't returned to Somaliland and no longer works with DoTerra. The company continued working with Hassan for at least 3 years after DiCarlo reported the assault. If Hassan wasn't so powerful, he wouldn't be able to do this to so many women, DiCarlo says. Critics say DoTerra's funding and support has empowered Hassan to grow wealthy and influential over local clan dynamics in Somaliland, which, according to U.S. think tank Freedom House, has few institutional safeguards against corruption. People are scared of Barkhad Hassan and his gang, says a sorter. We are living a life of hell. So that was Somaliland's Frankincense brings gold to companies. It's women pay the price. And like I said, this one was actually published in January of 2023. But on November 1st of 2024, there was actually another article that was posted up about all of this. Call it an update. It's an update. So this one is called U.S. Blocks Imports from Former doTERRA Frankincense Supplier over Forced Labor. And again, this was published November 1st. It says the U.S., like the whole country, the entire USA country, has banned imports from Asli Mehdi, the Somali company that until 2023 supplied frankincense oil to the popular U.S. essential oils brand doTERRA over the use of forced labor. The ban follows an investigation published last year by the Fuller Project into the abuse and exploitation of women frankincense sorters working for Asli Mehdi in Somaliland. doTERRA, which generates more than $2 billion in annual sales, has built its brand on ethical sourcing, promises that it pays workers well, and invests in the local communities where harvesters live and work. The company has cut ties with Asli Mehdi and halted its Somaliland operations, but it has thus far continued selling bottles of the so-called King of Oils for more than $100. It recently introduced a new frankincense product, a whole brand new one, largely drawing on stock from its Bulgaria distillery where frankincense from Somaliland was processed. So like I said, it sounds like that might be where they were sending it to their Bulgaria distillery, where they would then take the like oil or whatever and turn it into their product. Trading in goods made with forced labor is in direct opposition to American values. When goods are manufactured at the cost of someone's health, safety, or freedom, we all lose, said U.S. Customs and Border Protection senior official performing the duties of the Commissioner Troy A. Miller in a press release. What a title to have, huh? Customs and Border Protection, CBP, identified 5 indicators of forced labor. 5 indicators, okay? And this is what the Customs and Border Protection found, which I think they know how to look into this, you know? So they found deception, physical violence, abusive working conditions, intimidation and threats, and withholding of wages. So in their investigation, that's what they found. Just keep it in the back of your mind that they did an investigation and that's what they found. CBP has the authority to ban imports of merchandise believed to have been produced using forced labor or any work that is performed involuntarily and under the threat of penalty. The importer can either prove the items were not made with forced labor, right, or re-export them, or they may be destroyed. In the past, CBP has banned imports of diamonds from Zimbabwe, seafood from specific fishing vessels, and goods produced by China's Uyghur minority. With this action, we are sending a message to those who continue to disregard basic human rights. Your goods are not welcome in the United States, said Executive Assistant Commissioner of CBP Office of Trade Anne Marie R. Highsmith. In a statement, a DoTerra's spokesperson said the company has an unwavering commitment to ethical sourcing. Unwavering commitment to ethical sourcing. Had ceased purchasing from Asley Mady in 2022, and that an investigation by Sidley Austin verified that Asley Mady had violated the supplier code of conduct. Like with any regulatory agency, the company regards this matter with the utmost importance and will fully cooperate with authorities to ensure adherence to all relevant laws. CBP issued the ban after a joint petition from the Corporate Accountability Lab, a Chicago-based human rights legal group, and the Horn of Africa Charity Organization, that's HOACO, a group that advocated for the alleged victims, which have conducted their own investigation into labor abuses at Asley Mady. The group is also calling on authorities to penalize DoTerra for importing goods produced using forced labor and to investigate Asley Mady and its founder, Barkhad Assad. Until last year, DoTerra sourced much of its frankincense from Asley Mady in Somaliland, a self-declared republic north of Somalia. Workers there harvested resin from boswellia trees, and much of that resin was sent to a DoTerra facility in Bulgaria, where frankincense is stockpiled and distilled. DoTerra formally canceled its contract with Asley Mady in December of 2023. When the first article was written way before that. So just saying. At DoTerra's 2024 annual convention, co-founder Emily Wright said the company, that's the girl that did the video at the beginning, said the company has years worth of resin from Somaliland, and that will give us time to find the best way forward. She also acknowledged DoTerra's withdrawal from the region, saying, "I want you to know this is not the end. We have pulled out of the Sanaj region temporarily, but we are not giving up on this part of the world." More than a dozen women working for Asley Mady told the Fuller Project in 2022 that the company routinely underpaid them, required them to work in harsh conditions linked to health problems, and was led by a politically powerful man whom several women accused of sexual harassment or assault. Some of these allegations, as well as claims that Hassan had underpaid or never paid harvesters, were also the subject of a documentary by Vice News. When presented with the Fuller Project's findings in December of 2022, so again, it was a year, DoTerra found out in December 2022, and then they were like, oh, it took a year to stop using them. DoTerra said it would temporarily suspend its operations in Somaliland to investigate. The company hired Sidley Austin lawyer Sarah George, who recently concluded that the supplier did not meet the high standards we expected them, according to a DoTerra statement. We're going to go through all of those. George also said the evidence she reviewed did not support the claims of sexual harassment or assault, though the victims maintain their allegations. Yep, Sarah George, the lawyer hired by the company. Okay. No, Albs, I'm talking about the women that actually charged him with it before. I'm just saying. But the lawyer that's hired by DoTerra to look into these investigations into the person that doTERRA also hired, harming women, has said that those claims are not real. And that's interesting to me. You know, that's interesting. The Corporate Accountability Lab and HOACO concluded that Hassan engaged in deception, intimidation, and corruption in order to orchestrate a climate of fear designed to keep Asli Mehdi on top. Cal and HOACO applaud CBP's decision to issue an WRO. The report alleged that Hassan failed to pay harvesters for frankincense resin they harvested, and that women sorters received $1 for working days of more than 13 hours in poor conditions. Numerous women reported that they were sexually assaulted, raped, or pressured to pose naked for photographs by Hassan and his associates. According to the report, Asli Mehdi eliminated all other options for harvesters, sorters, and their families, and these conditions qualify as forced labor. So that's not good. That's not good. You know, I'm not going to support Trump as someone that's anti-multi-level marketing and anti-scam. I can't support the guy that made money on MLMs and scams and that's running a cult right now. I'm an anti-cultist and I'm anti-MLM. Very open about it. So I literally just can't give him my support. I can't. Also, you should look into Trump's allegations because he actually has been charged for it before. So you got to look into it. You know? Just saying. Got to look into it. So, the report also details some of the intimidation tactics Hassan allegedly employed to establish dominance in the region. The report says Hassan ran his company like a criminal gang, and he armed his employees, allowing him to prevent opposition or competitors from challenging his dominance. In 2018, 4 young Somali activists were arrested and fined after Hassan reported them for insulting Asli Mehdi, the report alleges. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Jen. See, I'm Canadian, so I'm a centrist, and I'm just against it. So just keep the politics out of it. I'm also somebody that does comedy, so I throw shade at everybody. I'm not exactly a fan of either side. Either side, just saying. I don't know why I, as a Canadian, has to get involved in USA politics, because people in the US will say, they're Canadian, they shouldn't even be talking about it. It doesn't even affect them. But then literally, if I don't tell people who I would have voted for had I been born in the USA, then they get mad at me. But you should know that I am an anti-MLM and anti-scam channel. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to make a political statement. I'm not here to do any of that. I've never been a political channel. So if you're looking for a political channel and somebody that just focuses on politics all the time, then you can go and find one. But I am not going to be that. And see, if I only allow certain, am I supposed to, as somebody that's trying to save people from scams and cults, am I supposed to ask them who they would have voted for before I'm helping them out of these things? especially as a Canadian who, again, I don't have anything to do with your election. I'll make fun of Trump all day long. But to be fair, Albs, you do have to calm down. Because you can't expect it of me either. It's funny because in Canada elections, when I'm making fun of both sides, I don't have people screaming at me telling me I have to pick a side. And I live here. But whenever I'm like making fun of all politics in the US, or I make my case knowing that I'm not a fan of people that want to stop the SEC and the FTC from running, like, why would that be weird? Considering I'm over here talking about companies that often get in trouble with the FTC and the SEC. Why would I then support that? I'm just not going to. You know? That's what I'm saying. And being anti-MLM, I just cannot really support Trump in any way, shape, or form. You know? That's all I'm saying. So Cal and HOACO recommend that doTERRA compensate victims, create a fund for survivors of gender-based violence, create a worker-driven remediation program for harvesters and sorters, and invest in the sustainability of frankincense trees in Somaliland. They also recommend that doTERRA take disciplinary action against staff who knew or should have known about the abuses, review and update current sourcing policies, provide financial transparency on social programs and donations through its nonprofit Healing Hands Foundation, and conduct a third-party investigation into the use of Healing Hands funds. The groups also recommend that U.S. authorities should further investigate Hassan, Asley Mady, and doTERRA for forced labor, and that Somaliland authorities should investigate Hassan and his business enterprises for theft, bribery, labor code violations, and gender-based violence and harassment. Hassan did not immediately respond to a request for comment. He has previously denied all allegations of abuse and exploitation. doTERRA must acknowledge their mistakes. I think it's fair. Like, they should probably acknowledge something more than they have. And begin a process of genuine engagement. HOACO Director Amina Sulman said in a statement, "This should start with a sincere apology for harm done to the frankincense harvesting communities. The community is committed to seeking accountability until these issues are addressed." So that's what they're saying about it. You know? That's what they're saying about it. Now, this is the Corporate Accountability Lab talking about what price for the king of oils, exploitation and abuse in doTerra's frankincense supply chain. So I think we should take a look at that just to get a better understanding of everything that's going on here. We're talking about this. If you can't stay on topic, Lord, you can't even make a joke about the president without people yelling at you. In 2020, Horn of Africa Charity Organization, HOACO, began an inquiry into wage theft in the frankincense industry in Somaliland and harm to rare frankincense forests, and engaged Corporate Accountability Lab, CAL, in 2021. The trail led to a US-based essential oil company and allegations indicative of a far-reaching and diverse criminal enterprise, including theft, egregious labor violations, bribery, sex trafficking, and rape or assault of hundreds of women and girls. Says this report describes those allegations and CAL's and HOACO's recommendations for how doTERRA, the US-based essential oil company that purchased scandal-tainted frankincense from Somaliland for an extended period of time, should proceed. Around 2015, a Somali UK national, Barkhad Hassan, returned from the UK to Somaliland and formed a frankincense sourcing company, Asley Mady. At that same time, doTERRA, a Utah-based essential oils company, was seeking new markets from which to buy frankincense resin. These two companies formed a partnership that provided Hassan the financial means to grow Asley Mady quickly, while seeking to push out other suppliers through threats and intimidation. Hassan made harvesters grand promises that a large U.S. company would buy and pay above market prices for as much resin as harvesters could produce. For this article, if you do business in a non-recognized country, this terrible situation will happen. Yeah. And if it does happen, I think that you should do something where you are, which I think is why they're saying that like doTERRA is responsible here to keep their employees safe, right? You know? Most of these MLMs have their stuff made overseas with close to slave labor. Exactly. Of course, it's Utah. So it says, years after many of these allegations were reported internally, doTERRA retained the international law firm Sidley Austin LLP, Sidley Austin, to conduct an investigation. It quickly became evident that information shared in the investigation was not secure and had even been accessed by Hassan, a lead perpetrator, leading to some survivors facing violent threats and leaving many others who agreed to interviews fearful for their security. So can you trust Sidley Austin LLP, the lawyers that were literally hired? You know? I don't know. I don't know. That'll be up to you guys. That'll be up to you guys. On November 1st, 2024, U.S. Customs and Border Protection issued a withhold release order against frankincense and frankincense-based products imported into the United States from Somalia by Asley Mady Exports and Imports Company. This WRO comes after CBP found 5 indicators of forced labor within this supply chain: deception, withholding of wages, abusive working conditions, threats and intimidation, and physical violence. So, you know, it's not looking the greatest. It's not looking the greatest. So, I mean, just based on that information, it's a little bit iffy. I just want to put the link to the other fuller article. So this is the article that we read before this. And then if you want to see the Somaliland report from the Corporate Accountability Lab, I'm going to link this. we are going to be going through the investigation that Sidley did. And I feel like it would be extremely, extremely repetitive if we read through this entire report and then we turned around and read through like the response from doTERRA on these allegations, if you will. Also, it's very, very triggering, a lot of it. It is sexual assault and rape that we're talking about here. And so the report, in terms of talking to these victims and everything, is a little iffy. So I'm going to leave it up to you to click on the link of the Somaliland report. And then if you decide to go and read through that whole thing, then you can. It basically goes into more detail what these Fuller report articles are accusing of, right? And talks about what we just read through a bit. But there, the any extra information I would have to provide in it would just be extremely triggering. So do beware of that if you want to go and read through the entire thing. To me, like, the border security did an investigation and they found these claims to be accurate. They're saying that there's a lot of threats and intimidation tactics and stuff going on there. So as a woman too, I can just kind of think about what it would be like being a woman in that workplace and how that would go and how obligated you would feel. And, this person has power politically. And then also your working conditions are bad. We don't know if he was using the working conditions against them, but it does sound like that was the case. He was making promises of fixing things in the working conditions and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And so they felt like they kind of had to put up with the abuse if they wanted to get better working conditions in the future. I feel quite confident kind of saying that's what my gist is of what has happened. So we're going to take a little break, and then when I return, we're going to quickly go through doTerra's statement that discusses this, and we're going to just briefly talk about the investigation team, and then we're going to go over the 17 pages of doTerra's findings, which also, as I said, kind of does give us the information about the accusations. And I feel like if any more that I would say about it, I might not be allowed on YouTube. Okay. All right. I'll check it out, Takara. So, we'll be right back. And then when I return, we're going to be getting into all of that because I do think it's very important that we read through it. Today's video is brought to you by...
Do you have a berserker demon? You may think that's a strange question, but I've dealt with berserker demons. What's a berserker? The word describes ancient Nordic warriors who fought with uncontrollable rage. This is where we get the expression, he was so angry, he went berserk. In the days of Vikings, berserkers would enter a trance before battle to get supernatural strength. They fought with a frenzy. Sound like someone you know? As we say, they lose it. Explosive anger can come from frustration, feeling disrespected, trauma, mental and hormonal issues, and drugs, but uncontrollable rage can be demonic. As an exorcist, I've dealt with berserker demons. If you've got one, you'll need more than anger management therapy. You may need an exorcism of a berserker demon of anger. That's inhuman. I'm here to help at boblarson.org.
Whoa, looks like you got a bit of a tangle in your dangle. Did you know that more than 8 out of 10 hose owners die each year? Not anymore. Hey, turn me on and watch my hose get huge. My mom always told me I was a grower, not a shower, and boy was she right. And if you squeeze me in the right spot, all my raging fluids will come flying out of me, and instantly I'll retract to my small, natural, convenient size. Amazing! Oh, yep. Shout outs to all my flowers and growers out there. And just like a real snake, it can contract and expand like an accordion. You know, we really wanted to name it the Snake Hose, but that's the title of a gay porno. I mean, I've never seen it, but Lizard's close enough. This is my next door neighbor, Sharon. She didn't know I was filming her. She also didn't know I had my hose in my hand, too. If your hose weighs more than 15 pounds, I feel sorry for you. You see, women prefer light, dainty, petite hoses. You don't want to be walking around with a big honking nanner. Oh, Sharon. Whoa, watch the whoa, don't get it caught on the thing. Whoa. Hey, buddy, watch where you're going. You don't want to end up like that guy, still using a standard hose, not going anywhere, and he's fucking bald. Fuck! Look at my hose, people. Oh, yeah, it's growing fast, and it's not kinking up anytime soon. Now, I don't know who lives here, but it's time to wake up. Behold, the full length and girth of my hose and its full potential. Hey, can't you see I'm filming a commercial here, you fucking asshole? Wah! Take that, fuckboy! No one fucks with my hose! The Lizard hose is about $30. You get 25 feet. That's like, just a little bit more than $1 per foot. Now, fuck it, we'll give you 2. That's 50 feet. Get fucked. Come on, touch it.
Wait, do you have a condom? You don't have one somewhere? Yes. Oi, excuse me there, sir. Do you have these directions? Sure, you just go down that way and make a turn. Don't let her know that your dinger's almost a no-go. Get Tiny Dinger condoms to you discreetly. It's very important to choose the right size, so make sure that you get your tiny size. Don't be caught without a condom. No. Get Tiny Dinger condoms, a YouTube streamer's favorite brand. Located at your local CVS pharmacy, Rexall, Shopper Drug Smart, Walmart, and in your favorite streamer's nightstand. We get it. You're into feet, and not many girls are also into feet, but you finally found your dream woman. We got your souls covered now. Brought to you by the same people who brought to you Tiny Dinger condoms, trademarked, a YouTube streamer's favorite brand, and the same people who brought to you sexual endorphin spray, trademarked. We have now created the foot fetish Fantasia spray. When you're rubbing on her toes, take a deep breath in and smell the sweet aromas of the toilet bowl, the tire shop, dead flowers, and your nana's perfume. After all, it will turn you on more than just her pinky toe will. This little piggy has been to the market and grabbed themselves a bottle of the foot fetish Fantasia spray, trademarked. It made it so much easier to wake to my ex-girlfriend's feet after she posted up her beach trip vacay photos. Grab your bottle now and make that nasty foot fragrance vanish just like a ghost. Located at CVS Pharmacy, Shoppers Drug Mart, Rexall, Walmart, Kmart, Chaz R Us, and in your favorite foot fetishist nightstand. Are you getting upset with people's freedom of speech and consumer protection laws that allow the public to speak out about your scam? Are you giving YouTube creators false strikes in order to continue preying on vulnerable people? Is it getting hard to hold it in? Hold in all the bullshit? Well, introducing Tiny Digger diapers, the adult diaper designed for the man baby deep down inside who's always on the way to the top where his ears will pop. With our FlexiFit technology, Tiny Digger Diapers moves with you whenever you sit on your chair, sit in your RV, sit on a boat, or sit in your home office paid for by the people you scam. The Secure Lock Core offers unmatched absorption for when you're full of shit, which is most likely all the time. These diapers keep you dry and comfortable so you can attend all 500 hours of webinars this week and not miss your chance to sign up a homeless man to your scam. Maybe he also needs the diapers, huh? Brought to you by the same people who brought to you Tiny Digger condoms and Fantasia foot spray. Buy Tiny Digger diapers today. Located at Shoppers Drug Mart, Rexall, Walmart, Target, your local CVS pharmacy, and in your favorite con artist nightstand. No matter where your day takes you from webinar to webinar, you will always be dry and you won't have to cry. Thank you for listening to a message from today's sponsor. Yes, thank you. And now we're going to get right into DoTerra's statement about what was going on, which is interesting. It's in their press release, and they did their statement on April 20th, 2024. And as you can see, there's a name for it, which is interesting. And they say, DoTerra works to secure legacy transfer of Sinag Specialty Hospital. It's not called the people that sourced our frankincense are being accused of all these allegations. It's called, we want to keep doing the hospital. Continues positive impact projects across the region. DoTerra has an unwavering commitment to maintaining high ethical standards, including adherence to our comprehensive code of conduct. We strive to work with ethical vendors to create transparency in our networks, supplying more jobs and reinvesting into our harvesting communities. We also prioritize partners who compensate harvesters and sorters at or above market rates, which, like, so far they've been proven not to, so that's weird. Includes paying premium prices to further uplift those within our sourcing communities. Upon learning of troubling allegations against our supplier in Somaliland, we enlisted the services of Sidley Austin, a highly respected law firm, to conduct a full and complete investigation into the resin supplier's working conditions. We also engaged a renowned training agency which supports local NGOs and UN bodies to conduct educational focus groups on proper workplace conditions. In addition, we established a hotline for workers to receive support, leave feedback, and express concerns or complaints. It's weird. Like, why wouldn't you have that from the beginning? How did we only get this in like 2023, 2024? How is that not just a thing that like all companies do, you know? The investigation revealed that the supplier did not meet the high standards we expected of them. And we subsequently terminated our relationship with the supplier, which, like, good thing that they terminated, but it took too long. Reactively, the supplier forced employees and patients to vacate DoTerra's Sinag Specialty Hospital, a highly specialized medical facility within the Frankincense community. As a result, we immediately arranged the safe transfer of patients to other care facilities in the area. DoTerra is proactively working to secure a legacy transfer of the Sinag Specialty Hospital to the Ministry of Health Development for the benefit of the people of Somaliland. As part of this process, the Ministry of Health Development is currently pursuing a legal case through the Irigavo Regional Court to assume full ownership and control of the hospital. And DoTerra is fully supporting these efforts. With the help of generous donors, DoTerra opened the Sinag Specialty Hospital in 2021. treating over 20,000 patients, performing more than 350 surgeries, and safely delivering nearly 450 babies. This legacy transfer of the hospital will continue to support thousands of individuals and families through its state-of-the-art medical equipment housed within this specialized care facility located near Frankincense communities. Despite the challenges of operating in Somaliland, our motivation is to source from locations where we can have the most positive impact on the lives of those within our sourcing communities. At present, we are collaborating with local NGOs in the Frankincense community to provide continuous healthcare and education for women and girls. And then they leave their email there if you want more information, you know. They're saying all this after being exposed for importing the stuff, right? But it's interesting that they're like, and then after we cut ties with this place, they screwed us over at our hospital. So they're even suffering from this guy doing things to them now, which I find quite interesting. So who is this legal team that they keep on talking about? Again, I'm going to leave you guys the link for the hospital article in the chat if you want to go and check it out for yourself. But luckily for us, there's another website that is all about DoTerra's Somaliland facts. I think we should check that out quickly. Because it has the investigation team. It says DoTerra commissioned Sidley Austin LLP to conduct the investigation into the allegations reported by Rachel Fobar, which is the woman that wrote the articles that we read through, that Anne Jeanette DiCarlo, a former consultant of DoTerra, was raped by Barghad Hassan, the owner of DoTerra's Supplier in Somaliland, Asley Mady Exports Limited, when she was working for DoTerra in November of 2018. A second allegation of rape of a woman by other individuals working for or connected with Asley Mady, and that pay and working conditions at Asley Mady were poor. So Sidley Austin is a global law firm with a crisis management team that is highly experienced in conducting investigations involving employment-related allegations. Interesting. Their London-based crisis management team handled this independent investigation. The investigation was led by Sarah George, a partner of Sidley Austin and an English criminal barrister with extensive previous experience in prosecuting and defending sex offenses. Sarah is Sidley Austin's lead lawyer in Europe for crisis management and strategic response. Sarah received an MA in Oriental Studies from the University of Oxford, a graduate diploma in law from City University, London, and completed the bar vocational course at the Inns of Court School of Law. Sarah has received acknowledgement from numerous industry ranking guides in respect of her investigation work, including most recently being ranked Band 1 in Chambers Crisis and Risk Management Guide 2023. A leading individual in Legal 500 UK 2024 and recognized in the Lawyers Hot 100 2024 list for her experience in international criminal and human rights investigations and experience pioneering corporate investigations in countries with no history of it. The investigation was assisted by a team of English qualified lawyers based in Sidley Austin's London office. The investigation was also assisted by Sophia Jama, MBE, who assisted with conducting interviews with Osley Mady employees. Sophia is trained and experienced in recording incidents of gender-based violence and exploitation. Safa, I don't know, is that what they call her for short? That was Sophia, is a senior and highly respected figure within the Somaliland diaspora in the UK and is consulted by government on policy and security. She is the founder and CEO of the Women's Inclusive Team, a British charity that exists to support women and their families who are from a Black and minority ethnic background. Sophia, then she's Sophia again. Sophia was awarded an MBE for services to the Somaliland community in the UK. I think this is Sarah Meyer. Also assisted with conducting interviews as a translator. Sarah is trained and experienced in recording incidents of gender-based violence and exploitation. A Somaliland-based gender-based violence expert who was instructed by the investigation to carry out the interviews in person. Investigator G. Investigator G has extensive experience in counseling sexual and gender-based violence victims. So this is a completely different person now. And has worked with various women empowerment and women's rights organizations. Investigator G has contributed to community awareness raising campaigns in the Horn of Africa. So that is who the team is. I'll give you the link to that as well. You can check that out. And then there's an area in there that is all about the findings. And the findings of this were done August 21st of 2024. And it is a 17-page document that goes through kind of like everything that you might need to know. Excuse me. So, as you can see, it's Sarah George from the Sidley Austin and DoTerra International. Good old Utah. Pleasant Grove. 21st August 2024. Dear Sirs, summary of the findings of the independent investigation into allegations made in 2 articles authored by Rachel Fobar for the Fuller Project and published in The Guardian on the 7th of January 2023 and the 17th of May 2023. DoTerra International LLC engaged Sidley Austin LLP, a global law firm, to conduct an independent investigation and to produce a report into allegations reported by Rachel Fobar that 1. Anne Jeanette DiCarlo, a former consultant for DoTerra, was allegedly raped by Barkhad Hassan, the owner of DoTerra's former supplier in Somaliland, Osley Mady Exports Limited, when she was working for DoTerra in November of 2018. And 2, a second allegation of rape of a 16-year-old girl in Somaliland and alleged sexual assault of 5 other unidentified teenage girls by other individuals working for or connected with Osley Mady. And number 3, that pay and working conditions at Osley Mady were allegedly poor. This letter sets out a summary of the totality of the evidence considered by the independent investigation and its findings in order to protect the safety of the witnesses. We identify by name only those who have chosen to comment in the public domain. Interesting. So you're only interested in the allegations of people who commented about this publicly and were okay to put their names out there with these allegations, right? But you didn't want to look into any of these other, because there's more. Sounds like you just wanted to hush up the public about this more than you wanted to find out whether these things actually happened or were going on in any way, shape, or form at this workplace. Sorry. So, I'm having a hard time with that. I'm kind of like, The investigation was fully independent, and doTERRA did not seek to, nor did it influence its findings. But you're technically hired by doTERRA. So this independent investigation, which doTERRA wanted you to do, adopted the balance of probabilities civil standard of proof, i.e., that the independent investigation is satisfied that the relevant event or circumstance is more likely than not to have occurred. The independent investigation has taken over 18 months. It has faced numerous challenges, examples of which are set out below. The evidence comprises hundreds of interviews with witnesses, including all relevant doTERRA employees, the senior management and other employees of Asli Mady, including Frankincense sorters, local and government officials in Somaliland, and healthcare workers, and site visits to all Asli Mady warehouses and other relevant locations. The independent investigation has been permitted access to financial records, contracts, chemical analysis, contemporaneous correspondence, including emails, text messages and WhatsApp messages, documentation and legal proceedings, photographic evidence, and telephone recordings. It was also permitted to pursue all reasonable lines of inquiry without restriction. In brief, it is the conclusion of the independent investigation that, number one, this is going to piss a lot of people off. The most serious allegations of the rape of Anne Jeanette DiCarlo by Barkhad Hassan on the 18th of November 2018 is not substantiated. Number two, there was insufficient evidence to substantiate any other allegation of rape of a 16-year-old girl in Somaliland and or allegations of sexual assault of 5 other teenage girls by Barkhad Hassan or any other individual working for or connected with Asli Mady. And number three, there was evidence of poor pay and poor working conditions in some premises owned and controlled by Asli Mady, which it is considered did not comply with doTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct. The Supplier Code of Conduct was based upon guidelines issued by the International Labor Organization, taking each of the findings in turn. So the first one, they say that DiCarlo's claim that she was raped by Barkhad Hassan had not been substantiated. And they're going to go into detail about that. On the basis of an analysis of all the contemporaneous evidence and subsequent statements made by Anne Jeanette DiCarlo, the independent investigation considers that it is very unlikely that Anne Jeanette DiCarlo was raped by Barkhad Hassan on 18th of November 2018. There are highly material inconsistencies in Anne Jeanette DiCarlo's various accounts of what occurred on 18th of November 2018. From her first unprompted assertions to 5 of her colleagues that she had not been raped by Barkhad Hassan in May 2019. A second account in October 2019 in which she was explicit that Barkhad Hassan didn't touch my vagina and that Barkhad Hassan did not rape me. Barkhad Hassan did not penetrate me during the alleged incident, and then over a year later, her publication of a number of very detailed but differing accounts of rape. Her written explanation for the irreconcilable discrepancies in her published accounts and her earliest disclosure was contradicted by the existence of a contemporaneous telephone recording made by DoTerra's general counsel of the October 2019 account and contemporaneous records of the May 2019 account. There was also extensive WhatsApp communication between Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo and Barkhad Hassan from the 19th of November 2018, the morning after the date of the alleged rape, until the 13th of February 2019. Over 200 messages that the independent investigation has seen were exchanged. The investigation considers that it is implausible that these messages were either altered or doctored in some way so as to give a false impression as to the overall relationship between Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo and Barkhad Hassan. It is the independent investigation's concluded view that Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo's WhatsApp messages to Barkhad Hassan are not consistent with Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo believing she had been the victim of a rape or serious sexual assault in the hours following the alleged assault or even in the subsequent months. They are, however, consistent with someone who was engaged in a sexual relationship with Barkhad Hassan, and he was upset at the imminent end of that relationship. To put this in context, on the morning of 19th November 2018, a few hours after the alleged rape, Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo wrote 9 WhatsApp messages to Barkhad Hassan, discussing a number of non-pressing matters, including a press conference and requesting a ride to the airport in the morning, acknowledging, "I can take a taxi since we are so close if you prefer, but let me know." And "I've already assumed that based upon what you told me last night, you won't be coming to Addis. Okay, let me know. Well, I guess, bye." And on the 20th of November 2018, "Not like you care, but my friend is taking us to the airport and have a nice life." No mention is made of any sexual assault in these messages, let alone rape, and they do not appear to be consistent with the writer having experienced a serious sexual assault only a matter of hours before. The WhatsApp messages subsequently demonstrate Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo's hurt at her rejection, jealousy of Barkhad Hassan's new wife, whom she perceives as having replaced her, indignation at having found out about his marriage from others, and disbelief that there is no future in her relationship with Barkhad Hassan, for whom she stated she had waited for over 2 years. When Mr. Hassan failed to respond to 12 of her WhatsApp messages, Ann-Jeanette DiCarlo prompted him on the 28th of November 2018, suggesting that she was unhappy to accept Mr. Hassan's disinclination to pursue the relationship with her further, and that she wanted to see him again. "So that's it? And then I didn't like what happened at your house, and that's how we're just going to leave it. And that one I could argue, it's like, okay, what if she was talking about the rape? What if it was still a date rape? Date rape happens. That's a thing. There is relationships that are abusive, in which the person being abused will be in the relationship for a long period of time, where they will be continuously sexually assaulted on numerous different occasions. And because of maybe the victim's inability to get out of that situation quickly, whether it be financial, whether they blame themselves or have shame and guilt about what's happening, or they think no one else will believe them, or maybe they have children together and so they're like staying together for the kids. There's a million reasons why, like, you know, someone wouldn't leave beyond just, you know, like not having the physical ability or finances to as well. Like, so I think this is where things get very, very iffy. And it gets into territory of it being the 1960s and a woman is on a stand and they're like, what are you wearing? Did you go out in the dark? Did you not decide to go out without a man next to you to protect you? It's like, well, what would I need the protection from? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a bigger issue here than just, so it's very hard to kind of be like, oh yeah, based on these communications, this is how things happen, you know? Angel says, right, like nothing in their communication or her communication shows me she is not a victim. They are purposely trying to not understand the trauma of assault. And that's what I mean. There's also like being in shock. There's just so many reasons and things that are not being taken into account in this report. And that's why when I started reading it, I said it would anger you, because I don't think there is a way to really read through this and be like, yeah, this is cool. I also question any agency that doesn't have the same resources that a police agency would have and their findings. And again, I just want to remind you that there was an investigation with the border people that found questionable things, right? And we do know that this guy did mess around with DoTerra's hospital after they cut ties with the sorcerer. So obviously there's something going on here politically, and this guy does have power. And like they said, they got some word that he was also a little bit too involved with this investigation. So there's a lot that kind of makes you go, I don't know. I don't know. It's a very hard situation. And I'm glad I'm not the judge that has to decide this case. You know, it's very difficult. Right? And it says, Bargan Hassan eventually responded, I was worried that you saw me as douchebag. I was nasty, but I didn't mean it at all. The circumstances and environment wasn't conducive to a pleasant farewell. Anjanette DiCarlo responded, so you live in that house with your lost and nude wife. Why didn't you just tell me instead of let everyone else tell me you are definitely married? No respect for me or yourself at all. And I'm kind of like, that doesn't tell me that she wasn't assaulted by him. That tells me that she's kind of floored that this man did stuff with her when he has a wife. Whether it was consensual or not, that statement doesn't tell me anything. If anything, him saying he was a douchebag and he was nasty is more proof to me that something nefarious did occur. Do you know what I mean? I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. Also, remember that they did have a working relationship too in the background of this kind of going on, right? She was kind of like the one at DoTerra that would go out there to oversee like him and his workplace. But I don't know, man. It's worrisome, all of it, for several reasons. And Jeanette DiCarlo continued, "You just had to stick it to me, bring me into a room full of her stuff. Watch out, I've been told she is ruthless and would be the first to put a bullet in you. At least you never had to worry about that with me, but I guess you prefer a stone cold bitch. I've waited for you for over 2 years, and as you are pushing me around your room, you tell me we together? Wow. Can't be. We also have no plans to do anything further together. Nothing, just nothing." Now, maybe there was, and I'm just throwing this out there as a situation, maybe there was going to be a relationship between the two of them. Maybe she was waiting 2 years for this man and they were playing a little bit of cat and mouse. That does not, however, mean that then when they're in the same house together, he can then drag her into a bedroom and do that to her. Do you know what I mean? So to me, I'm kind of like, I don't know if this is indefinite proof. Taking a conversation is really circumstantial evidence to me. We're really walking on a weird tightrope here. I don't know. On the 1st of January, 2019, Anne Jeanette DiCarlo sent Barkat Hassan a photograph of herself. He did not respond. On the 7th of January, 2019, she asked him, "Why don't you ever see me? Why would I show up halfway around the world to see you?" On the 18th of January, 2019, she told him, "I'll always love you." So then I'm thinking, okay, maybe they had some kind of relationship, but then that happened that night. And while she was upset about that, she also found out he had a wife. And maybe it is all a little too much to process at the time. I don't know. I'm not her. You know? On the 2nd of February, 2019, Anne Jeanette DiCarlo told Barkat Hassan that "I tried numerous times to reach out and you just can't be bothered. There is no pride in love, so I'm okay with myself for trying, but you know there is a limit. I'm sad about it, but I'll survive. I told you as a friend, I'll always love you." Barkat Hassan agreed to be interviewed by the Independent Investigation in person on the 21st of June, 2023. He categorically denied raping Anne Jeanette DiCarlo or indeed anyone. He described his relationship with her as a semi-relationship, which she regarded as long-term, but I didn't, and that it was primarily sexual. When we had sex, sometimes she initiated it, and sometimes it was me. And I'm like, yes, that's how a consensual relationship goes. But that doesn't mean that you could then do things without consent. Like, I'm failing to see the proof. He explained that it was engagement with his third wife which triggered the end of the relationship with Anne Jeanette. She wanted me to leave Somaliland and go to the US with her. I said no. Anne Jeanette regarded our relationship as long-term, but I didn't. You will get the picture from the text. She found out from certain people that I was engaged and she switched. The WhatsApp messages do support the existence of a consensual sexual relationship between Barkett Hassan and Anjanette DiCarlo for some 2 years in duration, and some of the messages are explicitly sexual in content. Anjanette DiCarlo had disclosed to doTERRA that she was in a personal relationship with Barkett Hassan in September of 2018, although she did not define what she meant by that. And she was warned about the critical importance of objectivity in her consultancy work for doTERRA, given this potential conflict of interest. The existence of a sexual relationship has been confirmed by statements made by those who are in a position to observe directly the behavior of the respective parties in Somaliland. Notwithstanding the above, Anjanette DiCarlo unequivocally denies that she had a romantic or sexual relationship with Barkett Hassan. We consider Anjanette DiCarlo's untruthfulness regarding the sexual nature of her relationship with Barkett Hassan to be necessarily detrimental to her credibility and to the independent investigation's ability to accept her account of what happened on the night of the 18th of November, 2018. The independent investigation made every effort to interview Anjanette DiCarlo personally about her allegation. An interview was finally arranged with her. However, she canceled the interview shortly before it was due to commence when the independent investigation disclosed the WhatsApp messages and the telephone recording to her. Instead, she provided written answers to questions posed by the independent investigators. In the light of the facts and matters set out above, the independent investigation concludes that it is more likely than not that if any sexual conduct occurred between Anjanette DiCarlo and Barkett Hassan on the 18th of November 2018, it was consensual. Number 2 is the rape allegation reportedly made by an unidentified woman that could not be substantiated, nor her allegation that 5 other unnamed teenage girls, unnamed because they're underage, were sexually assaulted by 10 men connected to Asli Mady, including Barkett Hassan. Worrisome stuff. In the Guardian article dated the 7th of January 2023, the January article, it was alleged by an unnamed woman that when she was 16, she was driven by 2 Asli Mady employees to a private house where she was drugged and sexually assaulted. She claims that she was then held in a different private house where over the course of a few days she was allegedly raped multiple times by 2 unnamed men. She also stated that 5 other teenage girls were also assaulted by 10 men, including Hassan. All of them had, she says, been promised jobs with Asli Mady. It is noted that despite the manifest seriousness of this allegation, no corroborative evidence is provided in the January article, save in small part from Anjanette DiCarlo, as to which see below. Nor is any detail given. No location is specified. No date is given. No alleged perpetrator is identified other than Barkett Hassan, which they wouldn't have known who the other people are if they were teenage girls invited to this party, right? Who the complaint does not allege raped her and who is quoted in the January article as denying being a rapist. The complainant herself is not named. Because it happened when she's talking about something that happened to her when she was a minor. She could still be a minor. But, let's blast her name everywhere. Yeah, no, sure, doTerra. Good thinking. Sarah George. Yeah, no. What a woman. What a woman. Given the lack of any detail in the January article as to time, place, and the names of the people involved, other than Barkett Hassan, this allegation was extremely difficult to investigate. Accordingly, the independent investigation sought the assistance of Amina Solman, who describes herself as a representative of an investor in BioMal, a commercial frankincense operation based in Somaliland. Amina Silman informed the independent investigation that this rape and a sexual assault allegation was based upon a single WhatsApp call between the unnamed complainant and Rachel Fobar, which had been arranged and translated by Amina herself. The independent investigation understands that Rachel Fobar did not travel to Somaliland to meet any of the alleged complainants herself. Amina stated that only she knew the identity of the complainant and that she had arranged for her to be interviewed by Rachel Fobar. It was therefore critical for the independent investigation to obtain Amina's assistance to facilitate an interview between the independent investigation team and the complainant, under strict assurances of confidentiality and anonymity, not least so that sufficient details could be provided to the independent investigation as to when the alleged rape took place, where it took place, and if possible, identification of or pointers to the 5 other teenage girls and or the men involved. The assistance was not forthcoming, despite multiple requests by the independent investigation. Amina Silman has neither facilitated an interview with the unnamed complainant nor provided the independent investigation with any other evidence by which it can properly investigate this allegation of rape and sexual assault made by them, whose identity she asserts is known only to her. And that's because, again, people were threatened. He was threatening all of the girls not to speak out at this time. And I don't know if DoTerra or this legal team have the necessary resources to seek asylum for these women while an investigation like this is going on and while this man is becoming aware that women that he has political power over are accusing him of these things. So there's a lot here that's just, this whole thing is just disheartening. In the absence of any detail of the allegations made by and or an interview with the unnamed complainant in the January article, all that is left is the evidence of Anjanette DiCarlo, who, it was said, corroborates part of the woman's account. She says she was in the town near Irigavo attending a focus group hosted by Asli Mady, and that evening she was urged to leave so the men could have a party. When she asked if she could join in, she says an employee told her, "No, you can't stay for this kind of party." The next day, they smelled of alcohol, and she asked how the party was. She says one of the men laughed and said, "Girls." And my whole thing is, it's weird, though, that she would tell that story, and these girls would do these accusations. And, like, do you have proof that they talked? Because how would she know to tell a story like that to corroborate their allegations if this was a planned false accusation? Is kind of my point. Like, that's the thing about this that's a little iffy, right? It's like, but how would she have known that they needed a made-up story like that, you know? Reading between the lines, this independent investigation sounds a little hostile. So why would any victims want to participate or feel safe doing so? There are no protection guarantees. See, and that's the thing that I think we need to, like, constantly remind ourselves of as we're going through this. We are dealing with a case in another country where women cannot go to the police and report rape and then have that man arrested and thrown in jail. Okay. It just does not happen. Oftentimes the cops show up. They don't really take women seriously there. Women are not considered people. They are considered like property of men. And very much in that area. And when it comes to things like this, it's just, it doesn't look good. It's hard to do that. So this person then has like political power over them as well. And this investigation's going on, and they're like questioning him and meeting with him, which then is going to tell him about this. When doTERRA cut ties with him, he screwed up their hospital. He's obviously not a very nice dude. I think we can at least all agree on that. And I would hope that at some point in this report here, they're going to at least say that he's not the best person. But it's like those girls have no protections. Okay, like they're just kind of left there making these accusations, and there's no way for us to keep them safe. And this guy's already threatening them. And then you're like, why won't they meet with us? Like, what do you mean? You know, like, what do you mean? However, this in itself unclear. This is in itself unclear. I don't know. That's so hard to say. On its own admission, it only corroborates part of the woman's account. And even then, at its highest, it only supports the fact that there was a party with girls and alcohol, which is equally concerning because they were underage girls. So why is this adult man even throwing a party with alcohol with underage girls? Like, what are we doing, doTERRA? Like, what are we doing over here? Are you saying that's okay? Because remember, these are the people that were hired by doTERRA to look into this. So this is pretty much doTERRA saying this, you know, the company that empowers women. So I'm a little worried about all of this as a fellow woman's. Can you not do that? Like, you know, like, I don't, there's things said in here where you're like, okay, that's not okay either, though. So to state the obvious, Anjanette DiCarlo does not say, nor could she say, given that her account is that she had left the party. She wasn't at the party, you idiot. She left before the party. That she witnessed any of the sexual assaults alleged by the unnamed complainant. This is therefore no corroboration of the allegation at all. Further, on the 18th of September 2023, Amina provided an account to the Independent Investigation Somaliland Council, which is inconsistent with Anjanette DiCarlo's account, as quoted in the January article. Amina told the Independent Investigation that she did not trust Anjanette DiCarlo because the complainants all mentioned that there was a white lady at the party when they were assaulted. And my whole thing is, okay, so based on this, you're saying that there could have been an assault, but that she was at the assault, so then those girls would have then still been victims. Like, they admit there were girls, okay? Oh, wow, my thing did that thing again it likes to do. They admit that they're girls, right? But they're like, and there was alcohol, but we promise you that this didn't happen. And it's like, what? You can't promise. Like, what do you mean? You know, that's weird. I'm just saying. White lady at the party when they were assaulted. Amina alleges that the complainant, whom only she knows, places Anjanette DiCarlo at the party at the time of the assault and asserted further that Anjanette DiCarlo must have known what was going on. The conflicting and irreconcilable accounts given by the two women as to whether or not Anjanette DiCarlo was present when the assault took place create further doubt as to the likelihood that the rape and sexual assaults occurred as described by Miss Fobar in the January article. Further, Amina has alleged to the independent investigation that there are hundreds of victims of sexual offenses perpetrated by Barkhad Hassan and other individuals working for or connected with Asli Mehdi. There is no evidence to support such an allegation of widespread sexual abuse, nor has Amina provided any. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to be investigating it though? Like, what do you mean? Like, they have to provide the evidence? Like, you didn't look into this at all beyond looking into their claims and then interviewing him? Really? In this respect, it is noted that the chief Aquil of the Ahmed Farah Beside Subcan and the chairperson of the chief Aquils of the Beside Subcan, Chief Faisal, informed the independent investigation that he had not been made aware of any sexual assault allegations, let alone hundreds of victims by anyone. No such allegations appear to the knowledge of the independent investigation to have been made to any other NGOs or charities, including medical practitioners who would have been expected to identify and treat victims of sexual assault. This included interviews with the senior management and clinical director of the largest provider of gynecological services in the region for an insight into their view on the likely scale of sexual assault. It is noteworthy that not a single report of an individual experiencing or witnessing sexual assault and or harassment was made to the independent investigation by any current or former female or male employee of Asli Mehdi, either in interview or by means of the anonymous independent investigation hotline. It was observed by the gender-based violence experts who conducted the interviews in Somaliland on behalf of the independent investigation that the Asli Mehdi warehouses, where the female sorters worked, were exclusively female and that it would be extremely unusual for men to enter without supervision or to have contact with women to whom they are not related. In addition to the lack of corroborative evidence to substantiate her claims, given Amina's own commercial interest in B.O. Mal, her defamatory social media campaign against DoTerra, designed to drive it from doing business in Somaliland, and her untrue statements about the independent investigation itself, she cannot be treated as a reliable independent witness. The independent investigation has been unable to substantiate the allegation of rape reportedly made by an unidentified woman or her allegation of sexual assault of 5 teenage girls by 10 men connected to Asli Mehdi. Now, number 3 is poor pay and working conditions at some Asli Mehdi premises. As a result of the widespread publication of the allegations by Rachel Fobar in The Guardian, which were, as to be expected, repeated internationally, the independent investigation took place against the background of the suspension of all purchases by one of the world's largest international purchasers of frankincense. The economic impact on the sourcing community was devastating. Almost every witness represented that they were in serious financial difficulties. Many begged doTERRA to resume purchasing. However, following the allegations in The Guardian and in the light of the independent investigation's findings, the independent investigation recommended that doTERRA exercise its rights under its contractual arrangements with Asli Mehdi to terminate the relationship, and it did so. As a result, almost everyone in the frankincense community had a vested interest in the outcome of the independent investigation. The independent investigation itself was the subject of serious, though unsuccessful, attacks. Was it unsuccessful? How can we be so sure? Extortion, bribery, intimidation, death threats, and violence towards both the independent investigation's researchers and cooperating witnesses. So you did know that the witnesses were being threatened. And despite knowing that the witnesses were being threatened not to talk to you, you were like, because they didn't talk to us, we're not going to believe them? Sarah George, I really hope you're not the mother of a daughter or that you're feral. Because, man, you are not a girl's girl. If you can, like, sleep at night after coming up with that. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that guilt and shame trip is about, you bitch. Like, you know. You're willing to admit that that's going on. Did you do no research as an independent investigation into the issues of the systemic oppression in these areas and how it affects women? I haven't seen any of that taken into account either. Like, it sounds like your investigation was basically looking over the report and accusations and then talking to the guy that was accused. That's it. And you know that there's all kinds of stuff going on to try to stop this investigation from happening, right? And you know that the witnesses are being threatened, yet you're like, oh, but then they didn't show up, so we didn't find anything. The findings aren't inconclusive due to an inability to properly conduct an investigation due to this issue, and this issue. You could have gone with that. And as a company, DoTerra, that allegedly empowers women, that would have been your smarter PR move, honestly. What the fuck is this? Pisses me off. What is that? There were also incidents of witness impersonation, the fabrication of documents, and the staging of false scenarios by agents or associates working for or connected with Asley Mady. So, what documents were you using? Where did you get these WhatsApp messages from? Hassan? And we are sure that they're all true then, DoTerra? Company that empowers women? Especially women in other countries, right? Like, okay. It's like I just read a whole bunch of accusations being like, they were like, nope, fuck that, nope, fuck that, nope, fuck that. And to me, there wasn't any good reason for that, because in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe these things are going on. And then on page 11, you were like, oh, and by the way, all of your greatest fears about why we are dismissing this is actually true. We just don't give a shit to look into it or to consider it when we're considering this case. Fuck these women. And that's a little bit disheartening. A little upsetting, if you ask me. The fuck is that about? Witnesses were paid and or threatened to retract their accounts. A researcher was attacked and badly beaten. There was evidence of widespread witness coaching of the female sorters. The transcripts show that identical responses were given by multiple witnesses who often anticipated questions they had yet to be asked. Witnesses represented that they had been told that they needed to provide the answers in order to access their compensation. And they were probably also being told at working there, if you don't tell them what we want you to tell them, we're not paying your wages. Fuck you. Sounds like that was going on there. Others reported that to us that, Jesus Christ, Sarah, they were informed that they could only speak to the independent investigation through a self-appointed intermediary, Amina. No witness was paid for their testimony by the independent investigation. Due to the inherent difficulties with the reliability of witness testimony, the independent investigation attributed the greatest weight to historical documentation, financial records. Where available, Asli Mady failed to provide any financial documentation despite repeated requests by the independent investigation, and facts which could be established by observation on the ground. The independent investigation has made the following findings. doTERRA requires a local sourcing partner. Due to the distinct geopolitical and security challenges posed by the local environment, doTERRA used a local sourcing partner in Somaliland. That sole sourcing partner or supplier was Asli Mady. doTERRA paid more than the market rate. And I like how in this report, we don't see any of that. They just state these things. They don't show us. This is the market rate, and this is what doTERRA paid. There's none of that. We're just supposed to be like, oh, okay. Through the period in which doTERRA purchased resins from its supplier, Asli Mady, it paid considerably more than the then market value of those resins. It did so in order to enable those further down in the supply chain, i.e. those working for Asli Mady, to be paid in accordance with the fair and on-time payments requirements set out in the doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct, which form part of its contractual arrangements with Asli Mady. The doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct was based upon guidelines issued by the International Labour Organization. Some Asli Mady sorters received low pay. If some were, I'm sure they all were. It's just only some were willing to admit it. The evidence gathered by the independent investigation indicated that there was a wide divergence in claimed income, but that some female sorters were likely to have been paid an amount insufficient to meet their basic needs. This was a breach by Asli Mady of internationally accepted standards and the doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct, which doTERRA was unaware of at the time. There is no legal minimum wage in Somaliland. No, but did you ensure that you are buying it off of them? If you want them to run this operation for you, how are you helping to pay doTERRA for their safety, if you will? Because you claim that the reason why you're outsourcing it from there is also so that you can help their community and help them have better working conditions and all this. But then it sounds like you don't actually do anything to help with that other than be like, yeah, here's our policy on what they should be. This is how we want you to have your working conditions. Good luck. We might come visit maybe once a year if we're lucky to check up on that. And how is all this going on and these awful working conditions going on and you don't know about it? Did you guys never go there and check it out? You're all about how the people that wrote the article apparently never went there to interview people. So did you ever go to the Asley Mady and check out the warehouse and what was going on there? Or were you just like, here you go, follow these laws, please, to a country that doesn't really follow laws much? And the guy that sounds like he doesn't follow them at all. So that's a little weird. I'm just saying. You got the Supplier Code of Conduct. Says this was a breach by Asley Mady of internationally accepted standards and the DoTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct, which doTERRA was unaware of at the time. There is no legal minimum wage in Somaliland. And since there's no legal minimum wage in Somaliland, you're going to be mad at us for only paying them $1 an hour, okay? When we would have to pay them $15, a day. Well, yeah, I know, right? Should be an hour, but no, it's a day. When normally they would be paid $15 a day. What's wrong, doTERRA? You couldn't afford to pay some of them a little better? Or you were paying him and then he was pocketing the money and not putting it into this place. Is that what you're saying? But then we're supposed to listen to him when he says he didn't rape anyone? Like, am I supposed to believe that this guy is ethical and a good person or not? What's going on with this? Fargad Hassan, on behalf of Asley Mady, informed the independent investigation that he engaged in conversations and entered into agreements with competitor companies regarding the rates to be paid to sorters. These agreements are not prohibited under Somaliland law. Oh, so he breaks the law. Cool. It was emphasized by the senior management of Asley Mady that these arrangements enabled sorters to attain better wages. The independent investigation considers it likely, however, that agreements between competitors would have contributed to the sorters being paid less than they would have been had there been a fair and openly competitive market for their services. See, if there isn't a fair and openly competitive market, that's when workers really do get fucked over. It is probable that these agreements, whilst not unlawful, undermined the right to collective bargaining under internationally applicable standards and were not consistent with the doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct. The independent investigation received evidence relating to a labor dispute in an Asley Mady warehouse, where sorters engaged in a 2-day unpaid strike with the goal of securing a U.S. 20-cent raise in pay and improvements in their working conditions. The strikers were treated unsympathetically and referred to by Asley Mady as scammers. The evidence of a dispute of this nature is indicative of poor pay, poor working conditions, and poor labor relations at Asley Mady. Working hours for some sorters exceeded those specified in international standards and in the doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct. Again, doTERRA was unaware of this at the time. Seems like doTERRA was unaware of everything. Well, we didn't know this. We didn't know that. Okay, well, maybe be more attentive of your fucking company. We didn't know. doTERRA was unaware. Water and sanitation was poor in some Asley Mady locations. The regions in which Asley Mady operated experienced challenges as regards consistent access to water and sanitation. International standards provide that where the domestic context renders full satisfaction of benchmarked standards impossible, enterprises must respect the principle of internationally recognized human rights. Here, a safe and healthy working environment to the greatest extent possible and be able to demonstrate their efforts in this regard. Water and sanitation facilities do not necessarily need to include plumbed-in toilets and running water, as this was not always achievable in the local context. And this is what I mean. Like, what is doTERRA doing to ensure that these people can abide by their codes? Like, if the area doesn't have the facilities necessary, all right, and they don't have the resources to make them, like, at the same time, how are they going to have it? So there's just a lot going wrong here, right? All of it seems to be a lot. So the specialist evidence provided to the independent investigation by experts in public health and sanitation in the region indicated that such facilities were not safe and practical in the local conditions, as they are difficult to maintain. Poorly maintained facilities pose a greater risk to health and safety than more technologically basic but reliable facilities. A workplace without adequate access to water and basic sanitation is not generally safe and without risk to health, regardless of whether lack of access resulted in any proven health issues. Some Ashley-Mady premises did not have access to a reliable supply of safe, clean water and sanitation. Others were not maintained consistently with international standards or the DoTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct. doTERRA was unaware of this at the time. The working conditions of the sorters led to some workplace injuries, in particular, allergies and potentially associated respiratory and eye problems due to the absence of masks, other protective equipment, and proper ventilation when sorting the Frankincense product, which we can argue who should provide that. Like, does doTERRA have a responsibility to provide these things to them? Which was strong smelling and dusty. I mean, it is frankincense, right? These conditions are inconsistent with international standards and doTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct. doTERRA was unaware of this at the time. Very interesting that doTERRA, again, is unaware of everything. During the COVID pandemic, it was not possible for doTERRA's sourcing team to enter Somaliland to verify compliance with the doTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct. Okay, COVID ended in like 2021. Okay, you're telling me you didn't go 2021, 2022, 2023 and see any issues because of COVID? Like, okay, funny, everyone else could travel. Was it only Somaliland that you couldn't travel to for an extra few years due to COVID and the pandemic? I wasn't unaware. I didn't realize. Instead, they were reliant on virtual evaluations and information provided by Ashley-Mady. The absence of independent scrutiny was likely to have been a contributory factor in the deterioration of conditions. Further, the failure by Ashley-Mady to provide financial and other information as to Ashley-Mady's operations to doTERRA over the course of the contract between them in any event frustrated doTERRA's attempts to scrutinize the work being done. Notwithstanding doTERRA's inability to evaluate Ashley-Mady's compliance with its obligations under the terms of the contractual arrangements, it was the responsibility of Ashley-Mady to comply with the terms of the doTERRA Supplier Code of Conduct, to which it had agreed to be bound and for which it was paid significantly more for its resins than would otherwise have been the case. And see, again, but were they paid enough where they could then make the changes to this warehouse to then comply with the Supplier Code of Conduct? and build the facilities they need. You know what I'm saying? Joe says, an outhouse was good for our grandparents. It's good for the lazy, overpaid workers. Hope everyone knows that it's a joke. Yeah. Exactly. But the question here also is, does doTERRA hold a responsibility to help with the cost of these things? Is doTERRA partially responsible for this, or is all of the responsibility on Asley Mady? Right? Or is it like a mixture of the two? For example, Asley Mady in that area in Somaliland, they have standards that you have to adhere to as well. Okay, like they don't have, it's not like they have no ethic or laws there whatsoever. It's just a fair bit. They don't have it as good as we do. Let's just say that. But there are still standards that they have to adhere to. So are they adhering to those standards in that area, right? And then again, whose responsibility is it to ensure that they adhere to those standards and also to the DoTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct? And then does doTERRA also have a responsibility to help them out with that? You know? Or is it not doTERRA's responsibility at all? and then falls into the question of, if doTERRA isn't going to be doing that and it's not their responsibility, do they then have the right on their website to claim that they ensure that they pay the workers more and that they're doing ethical business practices at all these sites? Like, you know what I mean? Should they be allowed to like lie about that? Sounds like they didn't even go and check the conditions out there whatsoever. Like they hired this sorcerer, they didn't even go and take a look and see like how the operation was going to go. That's probably not good, you know? Like, so like, where is it his responsibility and where is it doTERRA's responsibility? Is it a mixture of the two? Where is that line drawn? You know, that's kind of what we have to decide here. So, if doTERRA had not sanctioned Asley Mady for non-compliance with the doTerra's Supplier Code of Conduct, it would have continued to have been floated with impunity. The lack of integrity demonstrated by the senior management of Asley Mady in their dealings with doTERRA and their lack of financial probity meant that a future relationship was wholly untenable. So that's Sarah George. She's a barrister in England and Wales. They must be so proud. But that's what that says. And like I said, it's kind of like, whose responsibility is it? So there is the appendix to letter from Sidley Austin to doTERRA International, dated 21st of August. Investigation team credentials and background is also listed on here. We're not going to go through it again because I already went through it with you guys on the website, but that's how this ends. I will leave a link to the PDF in the chat again for all of you in case, again, you guys want to come and read it yourselves. And when I'm done the stream, I'll put the links in the description so that you can come and check it out for yourselves. So I guess they're not using Asley Mady anymore. That is the good news, is at least they did sever ties with them. So they're not using them anymore. So, you know, that's good. But at the same time, it's still very worrisome because it is still running. And there's still people working there. And if those working conditions are as they said they were, that's worrisome. Not only just the bad working conditions in terms of for the workers only getting paid $1 and, you know, having to breathe in dust and all that, but also with these assaults. See, like, it kind of begs the question of, so what do we do now? You know, like, what do we do now? And do we hold doTERRA responsible for what has been going on here? Or do we accept that they, didn't know anything? They were unaware that it was going on. And I just think that if you are going to be a company and you're going to be outsourcing like that, you should go and check out the conditions. Definitely look into it. Now, there is one other thing that could be happening. I mean, maybe they were false allegations. Hold on. Don't get mad at me. Okay, I'm saying, let's just say that they were. All right, let's say that those two women that they said were lying about all of this going on were lying. It sounds like they were hinting like they could have been getting together to like start some shit. But then that begs the question of all those other victims. And why are there stories that are corroborating those kinds of stories? So unfortunately, I think that we should be very suspicious, and that there's most likely sexual assault and rape going on in this area of women by this man. And that's not good. We can't have that happening. And then becomes a question of how much is it now doTERRA's responsibility as the ones that hired this place to kind of stop this from happening. I mean, they say nothing happened, though. So I'm not pleased with it, but I don't know. Maybe when I was reading through that, you interpreted it differently. There allegedly are people, especially the doTERRA Huns, that are reading this or know about this, and they seem to think it's absolutely fine. They're like, no, nothing was found. It was all false. Move on and forget about it. We'll figure out our frankincense and just keep selling it. Personally, if I was with doTERRA and I read any of that going on with the company, I would leave. I'd be like, I don't want anything to do with any of this. But maybe that's just me. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to kind of put the question to you guys. I am not a jury. I am not a judge. I don't know what happened here. But based on what I've shared with you today, all of the information with their defense, I guess you can just kind of come up with your own conclusions about what happened with this doTERRA supplier. The good news is, like I said, they aren't getting their frankincense from them anymore. But again, that doesn't exactly solve the issue here. I think that there's also opening the conversation of the treatment of women that are trying to work in other countries. If you guys think that there's a wage gap in the US, you should go take a look at some of the other countries out there. There is a lot of issue with that. There really is. It is not strange to have rapes happening like this. Like, this isn't, the sad thing is, this isn't like a weird story. This is something that kind of happens in a lot of these places. And I think that maybe we should have more of a conversation about how we can stop this from happening. This shouldn't be happening anywhere. Everyone should be able to have safety at their place of employment, to be paid a respectable wage where they can, support their family on their income, on their wages they're being paid, their salaries, And yeah, like, there should never be anything sexual going on at the workplace. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Happy MLM Monday. I know it's been a triggering couple days. I apologize. We are not going to be doing much triggering in this sense for hopefully a long time. I hope that I don't have to report about MLMs or cults doing actual things to people for a while. That would be nice. They need to stop doing it though. So, you know, another Nexium pops up or something you watch. So starting tomorrow, we're going to be looking at some illegal income claims because Marty shared his calculator the other day and did some Marty math that I definitely want to talk about. And also tomorrow, my members are watching it right now. My members get it every Sunday, our Retro Reacts. So you guys are going to be getting that tomorrow around 1 o'clock, I believe it goes up. So stay tuned for that. And I will see you all tomorrow to discuss some bad MLM math. I love all of your faces. Thank you so much for sitting through that with me. I get it was a lot and it's a very hard thing to sit through, but important that we talk about it all, you know, like, anyway, I love you all. Mwah! Bye.
Queen of Karma. Spitting fire like a dragon. Torching scams, ain't no lagging. Expose the villains, no chilling. She real, stay killing. Manipulation tactics, break it down like fractions. Watch your videos, gain traction. Mind in action. Sub to her channel, truth candle burning bright. Illuminating dark corners, bringing scams to light. Queen of Karma, grinding day and night. Unveil the schemes, make the world right. My mentality, she dissecting the madness on some realness. Teach you how to stop the fakes, dodging all the ill stress. Her words piercing like arrows, no shadows. Follow her lead, avoid the gallows. Stay woke, folks, don't get caught in the hype. Queen of Karma got that insight, clear sight. Deflect the con, scam alarms, bringing street fight. Wisdom flowing, unmasking the night. Karma queen, reign supreme, scammers nightmare, that's her theme. She got the strategy, breaking down your fantasies. Every tactic she witnessed, break free from the sickness. Channel wisdom, slickness, ain't no hit or miss. Sub to her channel, truth candle burning bright. Illuminating dark corners, bringing scams to light. Queen of Karma, grinding day and night. Unveil the schemes, make the